Welcome to the Encore Audio Archives YouTube channel. I'm Taper Dave, and this is my channel. I've uploaded hundreds of talks here that I've recorded at meetings in West LA, and I've also recorded conventions starting in 2013. I've got a bunch of those up. And Walt and Mary Murray, the original owners of Encore Audio Archives, started the company in the 80s, and Walt recorded Joe and Charlie's and a bunch of stuff down in Vista, California. My sobriety date is June 20th of 1994. I hope you find something you like, so please like and subscribe to my channel and comment down below. If you want to hear something that I don't have or that you don't see, I'll see that I get it. Anyways, take care and have a great day if you want to.
Let's give a real nice welcome for our main speaker tonight, Ken.
My name's Ken. I am alcoholic. Well, hi yourself. I'm tickled silly to be vertical this late in the evening on a Sunday. Didn't used to be that way. Want to thank Mike for, where'd he go? There he is. For inviting us to come over tonight, Paul and I, and I want to thank Paul for a pretty heroic effort for somebody who's got a lot of fear about speaking in front of a group. You did real well, Paul. Paul and I are brothers. We're both in the class of 1980. So what you got tonight is four of a kind, 22 and 22, 4 twos. And we both got PhDs, so you got a double doc full house here, or 4 of a kind here. I just want to congratulate the people that took chips, William and Vicky and Eric for 1 year, and Patrick for 1 year. That's fantastic. That's a big deal. There aren't any big deals in AA, they say, but that's a big deal. That's a really big deal to me. And to take it in this room is very special. I have fond memories of this room. This was the first place I came when I got to Alcoholics Anonymous. It's a little different now than it was, but a very special place to me. I keep coming here. I'm here every Friday night that I'm in this country. I try to make it here. When I introduced myself, I said, I'm Ken, I am alcoholic. That's because I have a little problem with the word alcoholic. I mean, the usual problem, like I don't want to be one, but it's bad English, I think. Alcoholic to me is an adjective. It's like angelic, you know. Like, okay, so I am angelic. No, the proper English is I am an angelic person. So I could say I am alcoholic, or I could say I am an alcoholic person. Anyways, just to give you a little flavor for the kind of brain that I brought to you. That's what it was doing with all your readings and your literature and stuff like that. It was picking it to shreds and proving that I am not alcoholic by being able to find fault with everything you did. That allowed me to walk out of here, which I did. I'll get to that in a minute. I should start at the beginning. St. John's Hospital in Santa Monica is where I first saw the light of day 59 years ago. And St. John's Hospital in Santa Monica, 2 floors lower, is where I ended up 22 years ago, almost dead. And they gave me life again in a chemical dependency center. Brought me back to life because I had run the wheels off my wagon, trying to prove I could drink like a gentleman. And you had a big role in that. I cannot claim that I was born with a hole in my gut, that I'm alcoholic because my parents were alcoholic, or that I am alcoholic because I had a rotten childhood. I was raised down here on the beach in Venice, and it was great. And neither of my parents drank, except maybe a third of a bottle on Christmas or something like that. That's where my first drink came from, by the way, out of that bottle in the cabinet there next to the cereal. And I don't know why anybody put that stuff in their mouth. God, it tasted bad. It burned. I spit it out. And then I started feeling a little funny after that. And I didn't like that either, because I was athletic and I didn't like to feel dizzy and out of control. And it just was, ugh. It's a bad experience. But, you know, as I was going through school, Nightingale Elementary down there, it's changed its name, and then Mark Twain Junior High and Venice High School across the street here, I learned how to handle myself around alcohol because that's what my buddies were doing. So I just learned how to take care of myself and fit in, but I didn't like it. And then I went and, you know, did the military service. This was Vietnam, so it was pretty obvious I would have gotten drafted if I didn't sign up in the Navy. I did my time in the Navy and got overseas in Hong Kong and Japan and Hawaii and Philippines, and I didn't do a lot of drinking there. Surprising. I just didn't like it, you know. Even though everybody was doing it, and it was important to do a little of it to fit in, so I wasn't, you know, beat up on the ship. Came back to Santa Monica College and got my light turned on by a really good teacher. You know, I was pretty gifted academically all along, but lazy and unmotivated, and hormones just ripped me up when I was 13, and just almost never recovered from that. And so I went off to a 4-year school out in Riverside and got that degree, and they loved what I did, and they invited me to stay for the PhD, and I got that in record time and got hired at a local university right away, right out of graduate school, without any postdoctoral experience, which is what's usually suggested, and I've been there ever since. Right about that time I got married. We had our first kid just when I graduated with the degree and got the job, and we had our second kid shortly after that. We live over here in Mar Vista in a house that we bought. So here I am, 30 years old, pillar of the community, married, wife, 2 kids, house, homeowner, 2 cars, dog, 2 cats, vegetable garden in the backyard. Perfect. It's a perfect life, you know, and I'm rising in my career and being respected and starting to generate a reputation, but I'm drinking more. I don't know why I drank more. And I crossed over that line, and I became an alcoholic, but I could not see that. I asked my sponsor later, what made me start drinking some more? He said, well, that's simple, you're alcoholic. I said, no, it's the other way around, cart before the horse. Drinking more made me alcoholic, busted my enzyme system. He said, okay, I think you drank more because you're alcoholic. So we have this unresolved problem. Why am I alcoholic? I don't know. It's not in the family, and there's no real psychological reason for me to be alcoholic, but I am. And if I want to question that and hold off doing anything about it until I get it figured out, guess who's going to be in a coffin? Me. So I started accepting that I am alcoholic without understanding why. And this is very difficult for me because my degree is in physiology. What we do is to find out how it works. That's my job, is I find out how it works, what goes on underneath your skin. I do research to figure that out, and that's my life is understanding how it works. And I came here wanting to know how it works, and nobody could tell me or would tell me. I thought you were holding it back. Maybe you didn't trust me. Maybe you didn't believe I was alcoholic or something. And some old geezer, a guy named John, in a meeting, you know, I'd love to stand up and say, I don't understand how this thing works. He said, you know, that steel-pointed finger those old-timers have right in the chest? Go read chapter 5, how it works. I've already read chapter 5. I already read your whole silly book. It's poorly written. The syntax is terrible. It's ambiguous. And it's way too long. We could condense it by half. And someday, if you're kind to me, I might come help you do that. So I read the book again, chapter 5 again. This was after I was 2 years sober. I'm kind of jumping ahead a little bit. And it's before that, when I read chapter 5, you heard it tonight. You know, rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. Is that how it works? Not for a physiologist, that isn't how it works. That says it works well. And then it talks about all these people for whom it may not work. Yeah, okay, that's what I thought. It doesn't work. And then they go into a bunch of things called steps, where they say, this is what we did. These are the steps we took. Well, that isn't how it works. That isn't the mechanism. That's not a blueprint. That says this is how to work it. That's not how it works. Okay. But then right after that, finally, it says how it works. But I couldn't see it for 2 years in this program. It says God could and would if he were sought. That's how it works. And I wasn't ready to, see, I'm a scientist. And this God stuff is just out of the question. Just, if you want to have a calm 10 minutes, don't even bring it up. I have volumes of retorts and arguments and debates on the shelf in my mind, waiting for someone to trigger that. Just don't even say anything, or you're going to be sitting still in this hurricane of invective for the next half hour. That's my thinking about God. You know, I think God is a wonderful thing for those who need it. And it's a good thing that God exists for the health of this planet in general. But those of us who really know what's going on don't need that kind of stuff. So thank you, but no thank you. That was what you had to deal with when I came here. So I'm 32 years old and drinking more, and it's becoming a problem. It wasn't becoming a problem for me, it was becoming a problem for my wife. Well, she just needs a little more patience and understanding. We happened to go overseas for sabbatical leave you get in academics every 7th year. You can take off and go do some research for a year someplace. We went to Australia. That's a heck of a place to have a drinking problem. I was struggling with it then. I was really fighting, trying to control and enjoy my drinking. I can control it, or I could enjoy it. Control and enjoy? Ain't gonna happen, because I'm uptight if I'm trying to control it. See, I'm not enjoying anything. I'm not relaxed. Things got worse there, and I even admitted that things got worse there. When we came back, and they went downhill very fast. And I'm fortunate that they went downhill that quickly, and it wasn't a long and drawn-out, slowly getting worse problem where I had a chance to lose all of those things. Wife, job, cars, house, all that stuff is still there because I just crashed and burned so quickly after that. And I don't know why. I wish I could explain it to you, but I can't. I just became alcoholic very fast. And crossed over that line and struggled with it. Like it says in our book, I did all that stuff. I tried this and I tried that. Well, it's the red wine. It's those, it's those tannins in the red wine. I have chemistry background, so I can talk fancy like that. And convince myself and say, okay, now I'm going to switch over to the white wines. Now, some of those have tannins too. We want to stay away from the dry whites. We'll go for the sweet whites, and we'll only have them at certain hours. You see what I'm trying to do? It's chapter 3, trying to control my drinking. And I went through a lot of that, trying to make it work, and it didn't work. It continued to get worse. Then started these binges. The first one was only a day long. And it scared me. It really scared me inside. I didn't want anybody to see that. But what happened was I went on a drinking bout that I could not stop. And at one point in there, I wanted to stop. And then my mind said, you don't have to stop. It's okay. You deserve this. You've been under a lot of stress lately. And so that's the disease, I found out. And it was working on my mind to convince me slowly, imperceptibly, that what I was doing was okay. I was following its orders, but it's below the line. It wasn't making itself obvious at that time. But I knew down inside that something was really seriously bad. It was the first time in my life that I've been out of control, that I was not able to control myself. And it scared me, and it kind of woke me up. And it happened again a couple of weeks later. This one was 2 days long. And that really scared me because I'd never done that before, never drunk around the clock 48 hours. And then again, within a few weeks, the next one was 4 days long. Now, I'm a scientist, and if you plot that out, frequency or duration of binge against number of binge, it goes from 1 to 2 to 4. That's an exponential curve. That's not a straight line. That goes curving up rapidly. Watch out, because if that continues on its predicted path, the next binge is going to be 8 days long, and you may not survive. Because I couldn't eat when I was drinking like that, and my throat was just so, and the blood pressure was way up, and hot and cold sweats, and I had that classic allergic reaction. My skin would break out, and I would just be miserable and itchy, and my gut was all messed up by that. I had diarrhea coming out of both ends. It was just terrible. My body was saying, get this out of here. It's the allergic reaction the book talks about. And I would cover it up. I would use Pepto-Bismol and deny it, and take some aspirin and say that the high blood pressure was from something else. That's part of the disease too, I've come to understand. Doesn't want to have the spotlight put on it. So, my wife by that time had enough. And she was at the end of her rope. So she went off to this outfit called Al-Anon. And that made me so mad you can't believe it. Because why do people go to Al-Anon? Well, because they know an alcoholic. She was calling me an alcoholic. Labeling me as an alcoholic by going to Al-Anon. And I got really mad about that. I go to Al-Anon now. I'm a member of Al-Anon myself. I have to. I deal with alcoholics, and they're a handful, I'll tell you. I need extra help. It's a wonderful program, and our marriage is intact because of it. We're married 34 years, and I'm still alive because of it, because she saved my life by being available at the right time when that moment of clarity came. She came off the Al-Anon. All this literature started showing up around the house, including a meeting directory, and I finally said, okay, all right, I'll go to a meeting. And it was here in this room in beginning of August in 1980. And I walked into this room. The podium was at the other end. There was a little restaurant upstairs and tables in here with chairs around it. It was an Alano club, or they just moved out, or were going to move out, move over to Pico. I think it was still an Alano club. And it scared me, because people got up there in biker dress, and they talked about jail and murder, and I said, that's what I thought Alcoholics Anonymous was. I'm in the wrong place. But I kept coming back to the same meeting for 4 or 5 nights in a row, because I promised my wife I would do that. I'm a man of my word, upstanding citizen of the community. I do what I say. And finally, after about the 3rd or 4th meeting, you know how they all hold hands at the end? Say a prayer? Listen, if you're new here, you don't have to do that. I found out I didn't have to do it, especially the prayer part. You don't have to say that if you want to. Anyway, I didn't let go of the 2 people on either side of me. And they kind of looked at me, and I said, who's your leader? I need to talk to your leader. So I wanted to talk to the leader so I could convince them that I really was not an alcoholic, didn't belong here, was not qualified to be here, get a written excuse, take to my wife so she'd get off my back. They said, we don't have any leaders. Do you believe that? I mean, But we have a secretary, and that's the secretary over there. Oh, okay. So I went and talked to the secretary and said, why don't you come upstairs? I got a few things to do, and I'll be up in a minute. I'll buy a cup of coffee, and we'll talk about this. Okay. So 2 or 3 other people came along, and they gave me half a cup of coffee, so I didn't vibrate it all over the floor. And we're upstairs talking, and then a couple of guys on motorcycles came by and saw what was going on and zoomed right in. You know how they do? They got big eyes, and they're all paying attention to this, because here's this scientist, this analytical guy picking apart this God stuff and picking apart this whole program, Because I'd already read your literature carefully, analytically, cynically, because I'm not an alcoholically. And here's what I saw. I saw that the key to your whole program was in what's called the 12 steps of recovery. And I read them carefully. Step 1, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. Okay, those binges? Probably some powerlessness over alcohol during the binge, only during the binge. Unmanageable life, did I tell you who I am? What do you mean unmanageable? Out of the question, forget it. So the first half of the first step is appropriate some of the time. Step 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Who do you think you're dealing with? You can't fool me with peripheral statements like that. You're talking about God, aren't you? Out. Forget that. The God stuff is just for other people. It's just out. Step 3. See, now you got honest. Made a decision, turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understand God. Now you're saying God straight out. Okay, that's out. I'm a scientist. Try that with somebody else who's more gullible. I'm sorry, it just won't work for me. Step 4, made a fearless and searching inventory of ourselves. I thought about that. Okay, that's probably a good thing to do every now and then, inventory. I've never been in trouble with the law, never been in prison, never done this, never done that, upstanding member of the community, Boy Scout, Eagle Scout, in fact. Got this degree, member of the faculty at prestigious university, kids in school doing well, da-da-da. I don't have any enemies. There's no reason for me to write a moral inventory. There's been no moral transgressions. Certainly not like the stuff I've been hearing from the podium. So I don't have to write an inventory. So step 4 is out. Step 5 is where you read your inventory to somebody, and which I don't have, so that's out. Step 6 and 7 is about shortcomings and character defects, which were in the inventory, which I didn't have to write, so those are out. Step 8 and 9 are about making amends to those people you had harmed who are named in your inventory, which I didn't have to write, so those are out. Step 10 is the short version of 4 through 9, which I didn't have to do, so 10 is out. 11, you keep trying with this God stuff. What do you think, I'm going to change my mind or something? 11 is out, it's full of God stuff. 12 starts out with some sort of gibberish. And then there's the part in there about helping other people. Well, I'm a good-hearted person, and in fact my job is to help other people learn things and, get their own degrees and that sort of stuff. So, yeah, if you ask nice, and if I have some spare time, I'll come by and talk to some people that might benefit from some specific advice that I could give my job or something like that. I don't know. But I'll be happy to come by now and then after your meetings. So that's my take on your steps. Okay? That's what you had to deal with when I got here. And I had no reservations in letting you know my thoughts with lots of vocabulary. So all these people a meeting started around me as I went upstairs. And they're all saying, yeah, I used to think like that. And I say, I don't believe it. You couldn't think like that. Yeah, I did. I got a degree from here. Oh, I got a... And I'm starting to say, oops, maybe there's a little different crowd here than I thought, you know, and it turns out to be. It's just wonderful the way this program works. It puts people in front of you that are perfect for the situation, for the problem. If you're just willing to hang on to somebody and ask for help and go upstairs, you know, whatever it is. It's an amazing thing how that happens. Well, one of the guys there said, you know, you ought to come to this Beverly Hills Men's Stag on a Wednesday night. Tomorrow's Wednesday night. Why don't you come? I'll meet you over there, and it's the best meeting. I think it's the best meeting in Los Angeles. I said, okay, I'll meet you there. Because my ulterior motive was I figured that the president of AA was going to be in the best meeting, and I could get this president buttonholed against the wall, and I'd get my excuse written out for my wife, so I wouldn't have to go to these damn meetings. Well, he wasn't there. But there was this old geezer who was sitting on the bench in front of the meeting as I walked up, and I kind of peeked around the door, and I looked inside, and he's watching me, and he said, "You're in the right place." I was inflamed by that. For him to say that, he diagnosed my problem and prescribed treatment. All he said was, "You're in the right place." I swore I'd get that so-and-so back. Well, he became my sponsor. That's how it works in this program. I'm sorry. I'm trying to be logical about all this stuff, but it just isn't. It just doesn't work that way. Anyway, I got to that Roxbury meeting, and Paul mentioned that. It's my own group. And I was there listening for reasons not to ever have to be there again. And it's real easy to find reasons like that in AA meetings. And what I heard was something that was so clearly wrong that I jumped on. I heard a lot of stuff I didn't like. But this one thing, one guy stood up and said, "It's the first drink that gets you drunk." I am a physiologist. I know how the body works. I can calculate the precise blood alcohol level that will accrue upon ingestion of a single drink, given certain assumptions about body water content and fat and ethanol solubility in body lipids. And it's nowhere near what's necessary to get me drunk. Now, if it gets you drunk, you have a problem, and maybe you ought to stay in Alcoholics Anonymous. And to prove that, I'm going to do this little experiment. So I thanked them all and went home. Actually, I went out to coffee because in this meeting they have a habit of, you know, asking for new people. So I raised my hand. Okay. And then they called me up, and I don't remember what I said, but what it was obviously objectionable. Because one of the old timers after the meeting said, "You know, about what you shared, we come here looking for the similarities and not the differences." What does that mean? He said, "Come to coffee with us and I'll explain it." There's a whole bunch, new guys, there's a whole bunch of this stuff, these phrases and words they use in AA. It's kind of a language all by itself. If I get some time, I'll mention some of these things a little bit later. You just have to hang around a little bit to learn what these people mean when they say that stuff. Anyway, I went out to coffee with him just to please this old guy. And I ended up getting a phone number of somebody who was 5 years sober in the program as a potential sponsor, who was in the same business that I was in with the same degree and was in the same department but got fired because of drinking. And he could be a potential sponsor for me. And see, and I was already building these reasons why you couldn't be my sponsor and you couldn't be my sponsor because you don't know enough, you see. And here's this guy who's, I mean, he's in the same business. Everything is perfect. Couldn't deny it. I ended up getting him as a sponsor right out of the hospital, but it didn't work because we ended up talking business and not program. So I had to get a different sponsor right at the beginning. Anyway. So I went to this meeting, and the next day I set up an experiment to test the hypothesis that I am an alcoholic. Now, as a physiologist, I have a fully equipped chemical laboratory across the hall from my office, including pure alcohol. not pure, it's 95%, which is 190 proof. Yeah, that's okay, but you don't want to, you can get pure reagent grade, 99.99%, but it's distilled over benzene, and there are traces of benzene in it, which will kill neurons, so that's worse than denatured. You don't want to drink that stuff. And so if you're new and you're thinking about going out, or if you're old and you're thinking about going out, and you got access to this stuff, here's how you do it. You get yourself a can of Coke and you pour out 35 milliliters, and then you pour in 35 milliliters of 95%, 190 proof alcohol, ethanol on top of that. Now you want to put your thumb over the can and shake it, because the specific gravity of ethanol is lower than water, and it's going to float on top. And if you drink it without mixing it, you're going to burn your mouth. So that's what I did. And I had that cocktail, that highball, Coke and pure alcohol, at my desk at 5 o'clock before I went home. And then I went straight home, where there was no alcohol, thanks to Al-Anon, and waited to get drunk, or lose control, or go nuts, or whatever was going to happen. And none of the above happened. I knew it. Not alcoholic. So I went to work the next day. It was a good day. Got a lot of stuff done. Everything was going fine. You know, 4 o'clock rolls around, 5 o'clock rolls around. Hey, you're not alcoholic. Yay, 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 yay. But you are a scientist. Good scientists always repeat their experiments. So I had another highball at 5 o'clock that day, Friday, and same results at home. And the next day, Saturday, so I usually mow the lawn with a 6-pack of beer on Saturday. So to celebrate the fact I'm not an alcoholic, I bought 2 6-packs of beer. Can you see what's happening here? And by mid-afternoon, that was gone, and then I went to get my main stuff, which at that time cost $1.49 a gallon. It's Red Mountain, Carlo Rossi, top quality. You try to find the foil screw-off caps that are gold rather than the silver ones. That's the connoisseur part of being a wino. And that's the last I remember. And guess what happened? The 4th binge. And it wasn't 8 days long, it was 12 days long, according to my wife. I don't know, I wasn't there. But I do remember sort of coming to a couple of times. I remember the fear of it being 3 o'clock in the morning and the liquor stores are closed and there's nothing left in the house, and my body is vibrating me into alertness, from being passed out to being desperate. I had to have that medication. And then I'd get the car if I could find it and drive to the lab and get some stuff. And God, I should have killed dozens of people doing that, driving under those conditions at night on the freeway. I am so lucky. And so are a lot of other people. It could have been really bad. And then one day, I was really beat up. During that 12 days, I'd fallen down and I was bloody and bruised, and I fell and hit the back of my head, and I have to wear hearing aids now because of that. A scar on my nose, and there's a hole in the wall in the bedroom which I refuse to repair. I want to see that. That's what happens when I try to prove I'm not an alcoholic. I need to see that. And I get to see it every morning when I look at myself. And I had that moment of clarity, and it wasn't like suddenly I realized there's God or anything like that. It just was a moment of clarity. I was able to see clearly what was happening to me, and I knew I was dying quickly and I would be gone very soon if I was on the same pathway. And I got scared. Now that was a miracle, because the day before that I could see something going on with me and I didn't care. I just wanted to get another. If I can just get some more drink, then I'll feel better and that feeling will go away. And the fear didn't affect me, but that day it did, and I asked for help, and Al-Anon, through my wife, was there, and it got me into hospital, and they said I was the worst case they'd seen in 2 years. They hit me with whatever it takes to keep me from dying during seizures, and here I am. I went crawling back to that AA meeting on Wednesday night, because there was something about that meeting, something special about that meeting, and I couldn't identify it. And what it is love. It's the love of one alcoholic for another alcoholic. And it is rampant in that meeting. So if you're a guy, you don't even get close to that place unless you want to feel part of this fellowship, unless you want to have fun, unless you want to laugh, unless you want to enjoy life, which we absolutely insist on doing. I got back to that meeting and they used short phrases. They give me back that half a cup of coffee. And they said, keep coming back. 3 words. My damaged brain could handle that. If you gave me a sentence longer than that, I'd forget the beginning by the time you got to the end. Go to meetings. Call your sponsor. Work the steps. And then a little 2-word one. Don't drink. If you don't drink, this won't happen to you. Ah. Okay. But by then, I knew that that was not possible for me. I had tried everything that I was capable of trying, and it didn't work. I would end up drinking again anyway. I would make a decision in the morning with this huge hangover, and I'm still vibrating and shaking. This is terrible. I'm never going to do this again. Did I say that? I'm not going to do that again today. See what's happening? I'm changing my mind within seconds. From never doing it to I'm not going to do it today. And then a little later in the day, as I get feeling better and then I get some work done, then maybe I deserve a little reward and maybe a beer. Just one. What could that hurt? A light, maybe. I don't even remember if lights were available 22 years ago, but anyway, just one beer. And by the time 5 o'clock rolled around, I had talked my disease had slowly changed my mind to get me to agree that it was okay if I picked up a 6-pack of beer and a bottle of wine for the wife, because she'd been so patient with me. And guess who drank most of that wine? And guess what happened the next morning? Oh, God, I'm never going to do this again. So this disease changes my mind against my will. It makes me drink even though I decided not to drink. And it says that on page 24 in the book. I saw a book down here someplace. It says we are without defense against the first drink. Without defense. That's before I've had a drink. I mean, there's the craving that sets in after that first drink, and that's, you can't stop that either. But I can't stop myself from taking the first drink in the first place. That's the disease I have. It's an insane disease. It is subtle. It is crafty. It works within myself. It's in my brain. The analogy that helps me understand this disease is it's like a computer virus. My computer, my mainframe up here, has got a virus in it that every now and again will issue the command to take a drink, and I can't do anything about it. Moreover, I have discovered that when I think it's a good idea to take a drink, I always follow my advice. Because if I don't follow my advice, then it becomes an order. And if I don't follow that order, then it becomes an urgent necessity. It gets stronger and stronger if I don't give in to it. So, let's look at what's happened to me. I have a disease that makes me drink against my will. As soon as I start thinking about a drink, I have to take a drink. So I said, okay, this is how my brain works. As soon as it can understand something, that's why it's so curious. It wants to understand everything. Because as soon as I can understand something, that puts me in control of it. And now I'm in charge of it. And now I can not only command it and move it around, but I can change it. I can modify it. I can make it better or worse. It gives me a tremendous amount of power to have understanding about something. So now I understand that if I think about drinking, I will drink. Okay, folks, I don't need you. I don't need AA. I just won't think about drinking. Then I won't have a problem. And I tried that. You can try that right now if you want. Don't think about drinking. Don't even think about drinking. See, I'm unable to not think about drinking, see. So there's something else wrong with my brain. So it's going to think about drinking. And then once it's done that, then I have to drink, and I'm lost. So that realization that that's how I now am causes pitiful and incomprehensible demoralization, because it means I have lost. There's nothing I can do to control this. I am unable to get on top of this problem. Because it's diabolical, it uses the same device that where all my power is, and it takes over my power station. It's like having a corrupt government. The more money you give to it, the more corrupt it becomes. The more power it has, the worse it is. So, hey, you know what? There's still a solution to that state, that hopeless state of mind and body that Dr. Silkworth talks about in the front part of the book. Suppose you have another government that isn't corrupt, that you can use. We call that a higher power. Boy, it'd sure be a shame if a higher power became alcoholic, wouldn't it? We'd be in trouble. Anyway, there's 12 steps. That's what the 12 steps are designed to do, is to get me to a power greater than myself that I can use to run my life, because my computer program, Ken's will, has a virus in it, and that virus makes me drink against my will. And the harder I think about it, the faster I drink. There's no cure for this virus yet. Science may one day accomplish this, but it hasn't done so yet. And when it does, I'll let you know, because I stay in touch with that literature. Biomedical library is right down the hall from my office, and I check now and then to see what's going on. In fact, we got an endowed chair professor at our place who's he does alcoholism studies, and I and my family were his subjects in one of his studies at one time. And I know him, and I say, hey, Ernie, what's the latest on this addiction thing? You guys figure out what addictions are yet? And he says, well, no, but here's my pet theory now. I've modified it. And I said, listen, I got a meeting. I'll catch you later. They're not even close to understanding the nature of addiction, let alone what to do about it. So in the meantime, guys, AA works, and it's the best solution to the problem going so far. That's what I did. I checked it out while I was in the hospital, and that's what I found out. Sure, there are other ways to get sober and stay sober, but AA works the best, and it's the biggest, and it works. So I went crawling back to that meeting, and they said, we suggest you get a sponsor, especially you. Get a sponsor. I said, what's a sponsor? Never mind, I know what a sponsor is. It's somebody who pays you to put their name on your T-shirt or something like that. No, you're going to have to forget all that stuff, Ken. Just leave that brain of yours outside the door when you come in here. And I've been trying to do that. And you know what? It works. And, you know, that brain had all these objections about religion and all that stuff, and it's still outside the door, and it's still there with all its concerns and worries 22 years later. And one of these days, maybe I'll, try and make things mesh a little better. But for now, it'll stay out there. And I was able to do that. Okay, and the sponsor was somebody who's just been down the path before you and has agreed to show you what they did. That's all a sponsor does, and if you do what they did, chances are you'll turn out like they did. So, when you're looking for a sponsor, try and find someone who's the way you'd like to be. Now I had to think about how I want to be someday. And I did. And I decided that I would like somebody who's cheerful about AA, because if I have to come to these meetings, I want to be cheerful about it, at least. Second, I want somebody who's comfortable, because I'm still vibrating like this, and my head is vibrating like that too. And third, I want somebody who's enthusiastic, because I need that to counterbalance my own mental processes, which are the negative spiral. Because I start thinking about things and analyzing them, and they're not right. And it takes your cooperation to make them right, and you won't cooperate, so they get worse, and my attitude about it gets worse, and I just think myself into a negative spiral, and I get depressed. So I need somebody who's, and I found a guy like that. I just, this meeting, you hear people share for 2-3 minutes, and somebody clearly had those, and I asked him after the meeting if I could talk to him about sponsorship. He said, yeah, sure. let's have lunch, okay? And he became my sponsor first 8 years, and we went through the steps. And I said, good, we're going to go through the steps, but I need to tell you about this God crap that's in here. He said, Ken, just hold off on that for a little while. Let's just talk about step 1 first, okay? With the wisdom that's given to sponsors, this guy had 6 months sobriety at the time. I didn't know where that came from. He doesn't know where that came from. But that's what he said. And I said, okay, and then I went through those steps, and I worked those steps seriously, because the big voice inside said, you know, your life just may be on the line here. But this thing had kicked back in, and it was saying, this is all a bunch of crap. But it said, it convinced itself that it's okay to work these steps as a test to prove to you that they would not work in my case. And then when it didn't work, I was going to rub your nose in it, especially my sponsor. Well, they worked. So we went through the steps, and because I'm an intellectual, he said I get a whole month to work on step 1. We worked them in sequence, 1, 2, 3. He said they're numbered in sequence for you intellectuals to keep them straight. They're so unkind. You know, these old-timers, they say stuff. This is a good opportunity for me to, newcomers, I was telling you about newcomers. So John, a guy in our group, who calls you guys roadkill. Anyway, roadkill, I'm going to tell you, these old-timers, you hear them say stuff like, people that don't go to meetings don't find out what happens to people that don't go to meetings. Well, of course they find out. They're not going to meetings. What a stupid statement. No, but it's not a stupid statement. It's just a short, see, they shorten up everything here. You got to be alert for that. Stuff sounds really stupid. Like, surrender and win. That's really stupid too. But it works. So what they mean by that is that there's a process. If you stop or slow down going to meetings, there's a process that you get to see. If you're still going to meetings, you get to see this happen in people who slow down and then quit going to meetings, and eventually they die, of course. But and so they do find out. But while they're going through this process, these people that don't go to meetings, they can't see it themselves. So that's what you get to see. See, there's a huge amount of wisdom and experience in these little silly phrases that seem so stupid up front. So, hey, just have an open mind, give them a chance. And surrender and you'll win, really. So we got to step 4, and I wrote 32 pages, rough draft, of my inventory, 12 pages condensed version for reading to my sponsor, step 5, yeah, a big inventory. Thank God I had a big inventory. It wasn't all that bad, but it was fairly bad. And because when we got to step 8 and 9, where I got to make amends, I say that now, got to make amends. Before I got there, it was the dreaded amends. I don't want to see these people again. And once I started doing it, it got so rewarding that I was kind of upset that I didn't have a worse life, that I didn't hurt more people, because I wanted to make more amends. It's such a charge. It's incredible. And then, you know, things continued, and we got to step 11, and okay, I'm trying. What is this meditation stuff? And come on, serious people don't do that. And aren't you embarrassed? And, you know, get in the bathroom and close the door to get down on my knees and pray so nobody will see me. My wife's Catholic. Come on, she's been praying for my recovery for a long, long time. She's not going to say anything anyway. And then we get to step 12, and that gibberish at the beginning of step 12 says, having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps. So we're sitting down, my sponsor and I, one-on-one, and I've just finished reading that, and I said, stop a minute. Does that mean what I think it means? And he just looked at me and smiled, because he'd already seen the evidence, and it suddenly hit me. And I just got teary, and it just had tears rolling down my face. Because it was a fact. It was a statement of fact. Having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps. I'd already had a spiritual awakening. I didn't notice it. Sort of like alcoholism sneaks up on you spiritual higher power snuck up on me and just came in the kitchen door while I was busy in the living room working these steps. It just kind of slid in there, and it was changing my life and had been changing my life and making things happen for months before that. And I hadn't realized it. So I have a different opinion about these steps now. The steps work if I work them. They don't care what I think about them. They don't care if I believe in them. They don't care if I ridicule them while I'm working them. They don't care if I'm working them for the wrong reason, to show up somebody else or prove them wrong. They work anyway. They don't care. It's like this watch. You wind a watch and it works. It doesn't care what your educational background is, or skin color, or economic status. Doesn't matter. You wind a watch and it works. You work AA and it works. The watch doesn't care what I'm thinking. It works anyway. And when it says in How It Works, chapter 5, God could and would have sought, that's all I'm doing, is trying to wind the watch. That's all I'm trying to do. God's inside the watch. That's all I need to know about mechanism. God's inside the watch. Okay, so that's what it used to be like and what happened. And what it's like now is pretty amazing. Stuff has changed. And this is one cold, hard, by-the-book scientist with military training. And this guy can stand here right now and say, if you raised your hand tonight, I love you, and that's it. I love you, and there's nothing you can do to change that. And Chuck Chamberlain, who's my great-great-great-great-great-grand sponsor in this program, before he died, he'd say, how I feel about you is my business. And here's how I feel about you. I love you, and that's all there is to it, period. That's the end of it. How you feel about me is not my business. It's your business. Not my business. I'm not going to worry about it. If you want to make it my business, I'll pay attention to you, but otherwise, it's not my business. So that's how my relationship is with you. I love you, and that's all that's necessary. That's the end of the story. You can do whatever you want to do. Whew. I heard him say that when I was newly sober, and I said, this guy is spaced out. What is he on? He's wacko. And now I know what he's talking about. I've had opportunities. I have so much to tell you, and like 2 seconds left to tell you about it. This is a real shame. I've got tons of Godshot stories. There's one that I'm supposed to tell. Somebody told me to tell this about early in my sobriety. I got an invitation by the federal government to go to Antarctica to study penguins, and there are only 35 people at this remote research station down there, and I had counted up, and I just figured there was maybe 1 in 200 people in the United States are in AA, and I'm going to be that 1 in 200 down there. There's only 35, so there's not going to be anybody else in AA. I'm worried. I'm scared. Early in my sobriety, I need my home group to stay sober. And they said, no, it's okay. You can go take lots of tapes, take grapevines with you, and stay in touch. Do a lot of prayer, meditation, step 11, you'll be fine. I said, you don't know who you're dealing with. I'm scared. And so I went down there, and for 6 weeks, and after about 4 weeks, I was starting to go downhill. You know, that I was thinking too much. And I was doing all the stuff, tapes and grapevines, and calling my sponsor even. But what happens, is that tour ships come in about twice a week, and they have a lot of people that are paying tourists, and they come out to the station and tour around, find out what everybody's doing, and then for dinner you're invited out for cocktails and dinner on the ship and schmooze a little bit. And I knew there must be some alcoholics on that ship, AA members. Yeah, because a lot of people in my home group are rich and famous, and they go on to cruises like that. So I just figured. So I went out this one time. I had not been out to the ship. I don't want to go there. It's a slippery place. So I went out with this other guy from the station who just come, a guy named Bill. He just come from Washington. He was an inspector. He come out to the ship with me, and we're sitting at the table with the chief scientist on the cruise, and the chief scientist says, Ken, you know, you're drinking Coke. You can have anything you want. He says, and Bill, you're drinking Coke too. And you can have anything you want here. It's free. And he says, Bill says, yeah. Well, I don't drink anymore. And I looked at him, and I was just ready to stand up from the table and go to the purser and ask him to announce to the whole ship, any friends of Bill W., please go to the cocktail lounge. They'll understand. Just ready to stand up, and I hear Bill say this. And I said, do you know Bill W.? And he said, I sure do, for 13 years. And I said, will you be my Antarctic sponsor? So, I am delighted. And we had a meeting as soon as we could get off of that ship, and we had a lot of them after that. So back away for a second from that event. What happened? What happened there? I surrendered. I had just given up and was ready to take action on it, and the answer appeared next to me. It was always there, but I couldn't see it because I was operating on self-will. All I had to do was give up. So if you're new and you're having trouble with God, I'll give you my phone number. Better, I'll loan you my higher power. He creates AA meetings on continents that don't even have cities. Talk about power. There's plenty of it. Just look around you. Something is keeping all these alcoholics sober in this room. There's a job. These people are all losers. You just listen to their stories sometime. A lot worse than me, some of them. Anyway, if you are new, we're glad you're here, and welcome, and keep coming back. Thank you.
Sorry to interrupt your viewing. Taper Dave here. Just wanted to take a second to ask you to like and subscribe to my channel. Let me know if you like what you're listening. I've got some very good talks here, and this one's a great one. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Tell me what you think. Okay, this is how I prepare my drone for launching. I like to do it inside the cab of my truck so I'm not standing outside in the weather. To install the joysticks for control, up and down, right and left, powered on. I have an Android phone that I use to connect it to the drone with. And it's actually controlled through the iPhone, through an app. Oops, wrong way. It's actually controlled through the iPhone, or through this Android phone, through the app. It's actually controlled through the Android phone, through an app, and you connect it through this short connection right here.
Remote control connected.
Remote control's connected. So I pull out the drone. I have to extend the legs. Long legs extended first, then the short legs. Remove the gimbal protector. Set that aside, then power it on one short burst, then one long burst. I lay it down. So I have to go to calibrate. So the drone's not connected yet. It shows you here as this drone gets disconnected, even though the remote's powered on. So the drone has to establish it's connected. So I go into the app to calibration mode. First I'll calibrate the remote controller. Start calibration. Out, in, out, in, up, down, and then this little wheel is to control the gimbal. So it's calibrated. Go to gimbal calibration, start calibration, and then it calibrates the gimbal. And if that shows up, the gimbal's moving all over the place. Changes, you can see it on the video. And I'm calibrated to take off. It's acquired 7 satellites at the moment. There are 26 satellites up in the sky, which it has to acquire before you can take off. So it's connected. It's got enough satellites. This is white. I can go to press this little arrow button, swipe right to take off, and it would start the motors if I slid this to the right, but I'll wait till I get outside. Don't want to do it inside.